Allah. Blueprint newspaper. Nigeria needs sacrificing citizens to fulfill her dreams, according to Tinubu. Buhari Shetima tasks citizens on food production. EFCC boss harps on relentless anti-corruption war. Details continue on the inside pages. At the bottom of that page, you'll find the story. Times report on Tinubu's economic policies misleading. According to presidency, says reforms already reviving nation's economy. The Nigerian Tribune leads with redoubled efforts to stop economic hardship. Southern tells leaders at Eid-ul-Kabir prayer, Tinubu calls for love, charity to vulnerable. Atiku, governors felicitate Muslims, advocate peaceful coexistence. Festivity, call for unity in challenging time, according to CAN president. Prioritize needs of ordinary Nigerians, Methodist Archbishop tells president. Details of that story you will find on pages 3 and 5 today. In related developments from some of the stories you'll find already on the front page is this one on the front page of the Daily Independent. Tinubu inherited dead economy from Buhari. Presidency affirms, says president reforms, restoring investors' confidence. Nigeria now bankable again. Inflation to be tamed soon. New Telegraph has this one. GDP, how Nigeria lost 95 trillion naira in 5 years to foreign firms' exit. That story has details on page 3. 5 major companies left in Q1 24 as over 60 firms exited since 2020. Economy bleeding, Nasima warns. But what you have on the front page is a little different from all of this narrative of the Vanguard newspaper. Foreign portfolio investors in massive return to Nigeria. That's what you have on the front page of the Vanguard newspaper as its lead, as market share rises to 28-month high, shows up external reserves. Analysts attribute development to CBN's hawkish monetary policy. Story has its details on page 21. And look at that story on minimum wage. Labour Tripartite Committee chair in verbal war. That story is on page 5 of the paper. The Guardian is making some kind of projections, you might say. Minimum wage debate. Market realities peg ideal minimum pay for Nigerian workers at 104,400 naira. Details are on page 6. And of course, all of the details you have on the front page right there pointing in a particular direction. Look at the front page of this Nigerian newspaper. Controversy as gunmen kill 4 fishermen, abduct 9 others in Anambra. Troops foil terrorist attack in Kaduna, kill 1. That's the lead story on the front page of this Nigeria newspaper. The Abuja Inquirer has this one on its front page. Fears over cholera spread. FCT yet to issue health advisory. Find the details of that on the inside pages of the paper this morning. Business Day. Nigeria's free trade fruit rots on the vine. Despite FX crisis, AGUA, AFCFTA gains go begging. Critics say country has no export culture. That's a big story of Business Day newspaper this morning. Find the details of that story on the inside pages of the paper this morning. And those are the papers that we have for you today.
Well, I have a very, my attention is a little divided this morning on my picks, but let me start with what we have on the front page of this Nigerian newspaper. It's a sub-story right beside, the picture of people praying. Yesterday was Father's Day. Don't bite more than you can chew. Nigerian fathers advised. Well, please take that advice. I don't even want to talk about what's going on the front page of the Vanguard newspaper with Mr. and Mrs. this morning. So how can you not bite more than you can chew? What if you have already bitten more than you can chew and now you're having a hard time crunching the figures? I don't know how to take that advice, but, that's right there on the front page. But I'm drawn to the front page of the Abuja Inquirer this morning. And it says, fears over cholera spread. The rider is a little more disturbing. FCT yet to issue health advisory. We had a very interesting discussion with the Director General of the NCDC on Saturday on Channels Television. And one of the things that I found from his conversation with us is that a sizable number of ministries, departments, and agencies, particularly at the multinational or the subnational levels, are really not giving enough attention to the important things. And he also expressed a concern that unless we readdress the issues that are making the rounds, particularly concerning cholera, we may have, one way or the other, tweaked our health policy or direction from being preventive to being curative, which buttresses what Kayla said last week about some states of, some kind of direction we have gone from being preventive in our healthcare to being curative, which is, of course, naturally a lot more curative, a lot more expensive, and can cost more lives than even money. I want to believe that the states are giving attention to this now, particularly since everyone seems to be on holiday now. You're not able to pay attention to them before. Now you have to. Cholera is spreading, and we know that these diseases, I think Mark has mentioned this a number of times, we know that these things are going to happen from time to time. The calendar is there, right there at the office of the NCDC. And I want to hope that in the ministries of health in every state as well, if we know that these things are going to happen, why do we also have to wait until they happen before we start spending money or crying wolf? The figures are not looking good, particularly on the people whose finances are already crunched, and who all the time, as Chamberlain would also always reference, have to pay for their health out of pocket. Very disturbing for me, but that's my take this morning, guys.
Well, Ayo, you took it right out of my mouth, I can say. I could have sworn that you were spying on me, but hey, you're all the way in Lagos. How is that possible? Because The Guardian also highlights about the same thing. I mean, that's what's catching my own attention here, the cholera outbreak. But this time around, it's where you are, because you were talking about the Abuja Inquirer and its focus on the FCT. It is very worrisome that is happening. It would seem all over the country. So it would seem that no part of the country has been spared, from what we now understand. Over 33 states affected already. But this headline on the front page of The Guardian says, cholera outbreak, provide water. UNICEF urges Lagos. So, I mean, I'm sure if they're urging Lagos and it's a solution for Lagos, it's certainly a solution for almost every other part of the country. Interestingly, I happened to have visited Lagos this last weekend, and a number of things struck me, which was the fact that I can see that, people are preparing for the rains. The state government has been preparing for the rains for a while, and so they have been clearing the drainages. But guess what? As we see year in, year out, they clear the drainages and they leave them right beside the drains. So you wonder, I mean, what sense does it make that we clear the drains and then we leave the rubbish right beside the drains? Wow. We do not prepare for the fact that, when we clear the drains, we have to take the rubbish away. Is this rocket science? And it happens year in, year out. I'm beginning to feel like, like somebody's mother having to nag them over what they know they ought to do, the right thing to do, you wake up in the morning, you're supposed to make your bed or whatever it is you're supposed to do in the house, and you wait for someone to keep telling you to do this and do that. These are grown adults. I don't think you need any journalist to be telling them what it is to do. If you clear the drains, which is a good thing that you're doing it, make sure that there is a truck right there to take the rubbish away. It doesn't make any sense that when the rains come, they wash the rubbish right back into the drains. And then looking at the state of a number of barracks around Lagos. I mean, just travel along Airport Road, going to the airport, or go to Ikoyi, or wherever it is that we have barracks for our security men. And then you have to now ask, what does it take for us to have a maintenance agency within these institutions? Because we know that anybody that has built an estate must have an estate maintenance facility. That is something that should be a no-brainer. Why should we see our barracks, the barracks to house the police, the barracks to house the Air Force, why should they look the way they look? We can see ceilings falling, you can see roofs, looking one way or the other, you can see the houses, the kinds of things you really ought not to see where our security agents are living. And that's how it is. And we're happy to be opening new places and making new buildings with no intention or no preparation to maintain them. It's no wonder that we have cholera breaking out. It's now a norm on our calendar. It's disgraceful. It is disgraceful because it's, as you know, as Ayo has highlighted, it's a preventable illness. It's something that if only we had proper sanitation, we will prevent. What will it take? It's not rocket science. I'm sure we are intelligent enough to fix the problem. Chimbley.
Well, yes, and that's why what the Sultan is saying on the front page of Nigerian Tribune, one is worried or concerned that it may largely fall on deaf ears. But the front page there says he's telling leaders, double your efforts to resolve economic hardship in the country. And that's what Sultan is saying. And, you know, a lot of these things may sound basic, but politicians, look, they'll be thinking about how to win the next elections in the first instance. And then thereafter, when they put their cronies in several other positions, so even if they come up with policies that appear good, it's difficult to distill and for the lieutenants to execute because, first and foremost, cronies, not necessarily people who are qualified, are the ones who are in those positions, so they have a hard time. So they'll be saying one thing, and the result out there is another. It is a huge ask. And so, but what they should know, maybe as a people, we need to find a way to hold our politicians a lot more accountable. Consequences. There has to be. Because it's almost a given that if somebody comes in 4 years, it's a guarantee they get 8 years. It's almost. And so no matter what you say, for the most part, if it's guaranteed, they feel they can stroll around some of these things. But look, it will be advisable for them to heed the advice of the Sultan on the front page of Tribune, because at the end of the day, if people keep going about like this, you can only push them to the wall. But when they will eventually react, look at what happened with the NSAS. Look, I know it's a controversial one, but there are aspects of that we shouldn't discard. They know where you live. They had details of what was going on. It was a matter of time. I think they say a word is good enough for the wise. Well, that said, we will be back in a moment. Stay on with us.
There's a lot of fear in the journey towards building wealth, especially in an ever-changing economy like ours. And you know why that is? It's because navigating the world of investments without facts and insights is like walking in the dark. But that fear stops now. Opportunities open up to you when you have a trusted guide. Someone with over 28 years of experience advising individuals, corporates, and governments to achieve their dreams through strategic and well-timed investments. That someone is AfriInvest. The journey of 1,000 miles is easier when you have a trusted guide and partner who knows the way. So, take the first step. AfriInvest. Simplifying investments, creating wealth.
The rains are here again. Seasonal climate forecasts have revealed the possibility of flooding in several communities of Nigeria. Clear away solid wastes that block drainages and waterways to mitigate the risk of flooding in your area. Do not build on waterway. Do not walk through flood water. Evacuate from flood-prone areas to safe higher grounds and report any flood incident to the State Emergency Management Agency, SEMA. Listen to weather forecast and comply to safety instructions. For further information, visit www.nema.gov.ng. Disaster management is everybody's business. This message is brought to you by the National Emergency Management Agency, NEMA. NEMA, for the sake of the distressed.
The management and staff of JRB Solar Investment Limited felicitate with all Muslim Ummah, our highly esteemed customers, and all Nigerians on this joyous celebration of Eid-ul-Kabir. This festival reminds us of the virtue of sacrifice and total submission to the will of Almighty Allah. May this auspicious festival bring you and your loved ones abundant blessings, happiness, and prosperity. And may all the doors of success be opened for you and your family. Happy Eid-ul-Kabir celebration from all of us at JRB Solar Investment Limited. With JRB Solar, the sun is going to shine on everything you do.
Be a chef.
It's yet another Eid-ul-Kabir celebration and the markets are busy as expected. However, the high cost of living in the country is taking a toll on the purchasing power of Nigerians. Ram is an essential part of the celebration, and the average cost of ram in markets in Kano and the Federal Capital Territory is between 250,000 naira and 300,000 naira, as against 100,000 and 150,000 naira last year. A large ram would go for 800,000 and 1 million naira.
This year, the business is poor. There's no buyer. There's no money. At the ram, the money is high. Even in the market where we buy from, we bought it at very high price. And in the town, people are not turn up at all. There's a very, very low turn-up.
Last year, we had like around that you're selling is around 100,000 or 150. Now it's going to 300,000 or 250,000 naira. So maybe around everything in this country, because of this situation we are, has been changing now.
Some of the buyers at the livestock market decry the price of the rams.
I buy this one 350,000. They decided to reduce 20,000 for me, but they are refused. They never reduce anything, 350,000. Then I buy this one 200,000. 200,000, could you imagine? But they have full feeding, and I buy this one 300,000, the other one. I hope government should look this thing into consideration.
The common man won't even be able to feed his family. How much is the salary? When you look at the salary, number one, the salary you feed, pay rent, the children's school fees, other things. How much is the minimum wage?
At the Teroni market in Kano Metropolis, the prices of basic food items have also surged.
Last year, I think we were selling meat 3,000 per kg, and now the kg is 5,000 naira. So you see, as you talk about the patronization has to go beyond expectation, meaning that it has to go down due to the incapability that is doing with people around, as you can see, because of the economic collapse or whatsoever we call it in the country. This is actually what is happening in the country.
Something that we're supposed to afford like 2,500 before, but now it's almost of 9,000 now. So the way the things is now, like seriously, we don't afford it. Because things are very difficult now.
In a salad like this, you see many people, you see clouds everywhere will be choked up. But there's no money in people's hands. These are very expensive.
It's the same situation in Utako Market in the Federal Capital Territory.
You come to the market on a daily basis, and every day you come, the prices of things are going up. You buy something for 2,000 today. By the time you come tomorrow, the same thing is going for about 2,500, 3,000. Like the cost of beans, cost of rice, cost of gari. Every day it's a different price.
Unfortunately, today is absolutely ridiculous when it comes to the price. I just pick like a 50K in my pocket. Right now, I don't think I got like 3K in my pocket. And I just buy just a couple of stuff, and that just sits, and the money is just gone.
It's alarming. It's scary. Nigerians are suffering. You come with a budget and your list and you go into the market. What you bought yesterday for 2,000, by the time you go back today is 5,000 naira with no apology. And it's not their fault. The things keep changing every day.
The concern among shoppers is the high cost of these food items, which they say will dampen the celebration, and they want the government to address the situation beyond the immediate of celebration.
Okay, so yeah, some of the stark reality that we've got to grapple with. Professor Okeke joins us here. He is the Executive Director of Development Specs Academy. Good morning. Thank you for coming on today.
Good morning. Thank you.
Well, much as it's supposed to be celebratory mood, the holiday season, but clearly that's a current challenge that people have to deal with, as it were. But then today, we also do hear the president being quoted to say we need sacrificing citizens to ensure citizens' progress. The Sultan advising them, look, you need to do a lot more, double your efforts to get the impact. So do you get a sense that, because it comes across to several people, the leaders are saying one thing, the economic reality, on the other hand, seems to be at variance with whatever they're saying. Are they really in touch, do you think?
It's open to argument whether they are. You're calling for sacrifice from a people who actually has nothing more to sacrifice. Let us suppose I'm working in a government establishment. No, let me even take it beyond that, because whenever we speak of workers, we think of only government workers. Our population, is it up to 2 million or 3 million? No. The real work that keeps you and I going in real terms is that of farmers, vulcanizers, shoemakers, etc. They constitute the bulk of the population. Now, let us suppose I'm a security man, whether in a government establishment or in a private house, and I earn 50,000 naira a month. Now, what I used to spend on transport before fuel increase was maybe 9,000. Now I spend more than half of that. And so you see that, whereas I'm not a troublemaker, I don't want to create problems for myself, for the government, or for anybody, I can no longer sacrifice because I have no other means of income. That's a challenge. What challenges are not new. It doesn't mean everybody should go bonkers because things are hard. But as you're trying to make sacrifice, as you're enduring, you look around you also to draw inspiration. If your father is telling you, my son, my daughter, please, I want all of you to make sacrifice, things are difficult, he has a right to do that. But if you don't find that daddy is chicken in the night, right? After that, he washes it down with a glass of red wine, and he's telling you, don't be difficult, manage that roasted plantain. No matter how much you love your father, you can't cope. And you see him not eating the plantain, which creates further problems. So 2 things. The president's advice is correct. Nigerians should make sacrifice. But more importantly, the elite who are in charge of public affairs should be seen to be part of the Nigerians who are being asked to make sacrifice. I drive in fancy cars. I talk about the kind of figures that will make some people look dizzy. I spend 90 billion to facilitate Hajj. By Hajj travelers, many of whom can't feed. And I can't settle my problem with ASU and many other unions whose total demand is less than 90 billion, becomes a little difficult for people to retain the feeling and fervor of patriotism. So to that extent, the president has done his duty. He can't tell Nigerians not to make sacrifices. The question is, he needs to pay attention to the fact that the events around the state by those who the people are supposed to look up to is likely to induce more apathy. It's likely to induce greater disengagement from the Nigerian state and loyalty to the state. And it's not about this government. It's been on in all the 25 years of democracy. If I'm in Borno and I can go and make arrangements with bandits, collect money from them for them to carry out robbery operations, it means I no longer have an understanding of 3 things: the sense of community, the sense of the Nigerian state, and what's in my interest to remain alive for a longer time. So this thing is much more dangerous. It's not that people are making sacrifices, but their sense of how they ought to live in order to continue to live is being lost. And all indications, observing from my part, which may be wrong observation, is that the elite is not sufficiently connected with the reality they are supposed to be managing. They can't go home. They are the ones people who look to shoot on the road with their fine cars. That is not enough concern. It's not us talking here in Abuja about Nigeria. It's about the question of everybody in public office asking himself or herself 2 or 3 questions. Number 1, how are my cousins in the village faring? Now, that's your most immediate impact, perception of the Nigerian that you're talking about. How is my village looking? How is my town? How is the local government? What are the local government chairmen doing? Yes, they are being hamstrung by the state, but I'm a local government chairman. I get 100 million every month. At least that's what's allocated. Nothing happens. So at that level, the leadership at every level, and we make the mistake of looking at the presidency when in fact we have people elected all through the tiers. Nobody is asking them questions. And so that complicates everything for everybody. And that will make a call for sacrifice a little difficult to take seriously by the average person who doesn't know what he or she has to sacrifice anymore.
Well, you know, this is also coinciding with May 29 and now Democracy Day. So the president's 1 year in office and also 25 years of Nigeria's unbroken democracy. So this is when this season has also come, you know, coming really closely on the heels. Time for reflection as well, and then celebration. But celebration, you know, and things are really difficult to come by. But before now, a number of people had visited the president, you know, to keep him abreast of what is happening in their communities, let him know that things are difficult in many parts. And the president has also tried to turn their attention to what is also happening at the state and at the local government. I remember the Arawa Consultative Forum visiting the president and, you know, also asking them to challenge the state governors and the local government and see what is happening at that level. Because as a result of this fuel removal, subsidy removal, you know, states and local government are getting more allocation. And there are questions as to really how can we turn the light there? Because as you have highlighted, this is where the people are. That's where a lot of people reside, in the local government, at the state level. Is there a way that we can actually raise the tempo in terms of getting governors and local government chairmen to be more accountable to the people that they serve?
No, well, for me, the question is whether it's the people they serve. The problem is at two levels. At the level of the elite engagement, a growing decrease in a sense of responsibility and perception that public office for service delivery. At the level of the people you say they are serving, what are the demands the average person is making of anyone in public office? If you, Maokwe or Chamberlain, emerge as senator today, you're going to get a long list of people for school fees, for chieftaincy title, for their wives in hospital, etc. So you find that over time, too, there's also the wrong perception that once you're in office, you have access to funds that you don't need to account for, and so let's have part of it. So the thing is multiple. Three of us, let's suppose we are contesting elections now, and we all go, we're from the same area, and we get there, and I tell them the kind of things we need to do. You see, there's a lot of suffering here. We have a lot of wine tappers. I intend to provide a machine, you know, what they use. You just wrap it around the tree, go up. The time it will take you to tap 15 palm trees. With this machine, you use it to tap 60. So I'll provide it a certain number. Everybody will rent it, all the tappers. So instead of spending 5 hours in the tapping this, then you spend 45 minutes. That's what I'll do when I become governor, or whatever it is. I'll provide their boreholes. I'll do this. Things that will impact their lives. I'm going to facilitate farmers. Within the first 1 year, you'll get this cycle. I finish saying all of that. Now, Mokwe comes, yes, I'm contesting, and all of you, anybody who will vote for me will get 10,000. Chamberlain offers you on. Nobody will take me seriously. So to that extent, you see that despite your good intention, there's already a demobilized public with the wrong expectations, with the wrong demands. And so those in public office who are genuinely determined to serve face the greatest challenges from the expectations of the people. What's to be done? If you don't meet the wrong expectations, the expectations will begin to change. It's as simple as that. And
so
I've seen it.
How should they channel those expectations?
The people?
Yeah.
No, now there are platforms for public engagement. At the rural level, you have town union presidents. In some places, you have district heads, etc. We must pay attention to the fact that most of these platforms for public political consciousness have also been taken over by those who are driving the wrong paradigms.
Wait. Why will someone out there go out to a district head or whoever if they want solutions to their challenges?
Okay, we're talking about security. Let's just focus on security. Any new person who comes into a village, the people know that this man or this woman wasn't part of us. Why is that intelligence not going to the military? to SSS, to DSS. Instead, he comes around, they look, I find out he can give me some money from his activities, I keep quiet. That's part of the crisis, and that's part of why we're wasting the most developed human capital we have, which is the security and military.
Pardon me to jump in. You know, I ask that because we see politicians come up with palliatives. They say they want to get across to certain people who need some of these things. But at the end of the day, we only see that it doesn't make any difference to a large extent. Stand corrected. Because the same governors came upon the inception of this government saying that the previous list or whatever register they had was false, it wasn't anything. Today, what do they have? What can they rely on? Because at the state level, people there cannot even get access to the basic amenities, basics. And so how do you, even if you have the best of policies, impact those at the grassroots where you should be?
The solution is simple. Most of those who talk policies, and I'm saying most, not all, understand an excellent policy you can deploy and change the lives of the people. But they don't understand the operating environment. Let's suppose that I'm from a state where there's a lot of water scarcity, and the policies, if I provide water that people can access the point within 1 hour, they'll have more time to do other things. They'll have more time for farming, and therefore food production will grow, overall productivity will increase, etc. And I go there to give water. And I talk to all the big men, the traditional ruler, they are nodding. But unknown to me, there are 3 people in that group who have the business of using tanker to sell water. And they make returns to either the traditional ruler or village head or the big boys. And as I'm talking, they are looking at an enemy. I have that fantastic policy. But I have zero understanding of the environment. That's why you see those who are talking about policy always making speeches on TV. It doesn't work because you know what the problem is. Okay, I know that chloroquine or whatever will cure malaria. The question is whether the man who has malaria will drink it. So what would aid the disconnect between policy and the reality? Simple. If you don't understand the environment, try to understand, okay, you're thinking of water. In every environment, there are power centers. And the power centers in that environment drive the interests they like. So I want to bring water. So I go, check. How have they been getting water? Oh, those of them who are slightly wealthier than the rest buy water from these water tanker dealers. The ordinary people, some of them also buy. A major stakeholder in that environment would be the water dealer. If I discover the cartel is too powerful, I'll negotiate for space sharing. No problem with this water thing, but I was thinking of sinking 9 boreholes. I'm going to sink 4. Now, the poorest of the poor will get water from there. Those who don't have time for that will get. So if you are you're looking for heaven on earth, you must be on drugs. The place is dominated by bad boys and girls, so you don't go with the preachment of the ideal in your scripture, no. You want to make impact. Find out how to make impact. Don't go around grumbling that we have this fallacy. Nigerians are suffering. We know Nigerians are suffering. The elite is bad. We know the elite is bad. Your intervention, is it taking the right route for impact? You want, okay, I want to make impact in Kano. I go there and I'm making speeches in stadium to the people. What's the power center in Kano? It includes the emirate. It includes imams. It includes village heads, district heads, etc., youth organizations. I go to them one after the other. This is what we are thinking. What do you think? And this is something I've done in a state. By the time we were done, we had 5,131 youths who are beneficiaries. And all the stakeholders came. Now, you have those who understand the solution. Theoretically. And it's working in the US and everywhere. This is not the US. This is not the Netherlands. This is not Poland. What can work for you? That is the question we are not addressing. Okay. The government has spent a lot on development, on interventions, on palliatives. Who accessed it? You mentioned the issue of figures. Imagine that you come to my villager and the traditional ruler. Look, this is going to the state. It's been given to me as governor. What are the power center and administrative structures in my state? It includes so and so. Yeah. They now give you, Chamberlain, 15,000 bags of rice for your village, not for the state capital. And you will keep it. And village family heads will not come. We are pretending that the elected elite constitutes those who can reach Nigerians. And so when you say we've got 2.5 million tons of this and that for Nigerians, you're only telling us about record of expenditure, not evidence of impact. That's part of the crisis.
How do you reconcile that evidence of impact? Because what they largely may do is, as long as they think they've spent the money, And as long as they think they will win the next elections, that's topmost in a politician's book.
You ask what I would do. What I would do is to identify, okay, how many, okay, take for instance, I'm from Anambra State. There are 177 communities, right? You brought 250,000 bags of rice. I divided it into 177. And I call them, I will say, I'll make an announcement in the state. We'll have a meeting with so and so in waves, traditional rulers, town union presidents. The information gets to the last person. And to the extent that it gets to the last person, there will be demand for explanation. But when I make the announcement, you know, we in government, we are suffering. People are not realizing it. Say the bags we've gotten. A disposition to only speak and deal at the superstructural level is part of the crisis on the table as we speak. Because for me, how can they say I haven't tried? I mean, this is number of bags. The question, did it get there? Did you have the right structures to make sure it got to the ground? Those are the things. And so when at this level I'm talking about all the effort, people are not appreciating. Look, somebody in the position of the president is in trouble. The higher you go, the more dependent you are on aids and assistance and structures and processes.
Do you think we're holding, because today, tomorrow, public holiday.
Yep.
You drive through any part of this country, you'll see a lot of idle citizens just sitting idling by, waiting and hoping for the next, wherever it is that comes from.
Or who they will rob.
Those are armies. That danger staring us in the face. In fact, it was during NSAS that many people said, I didn't even know we had a lot of this kind of persons who are around us. They didn't know because you're stuck up with your way of life.
You go out, you come back.
Yeah, that's the thing. So are we holding the governors accountable enough? Because if the system is broken, the same governors, when you talk about local government function, they say, no, you can't have which part of the world do you have someone from local government also going to the center to collect? But there are fundamental problems that have broken, that have not been fixed. Are we holding them accountable enough?
Well, I'll move from the root of the crisis to accountability issues. We have a massive population of unemployed young people with a lot of energy.
Yeah.
They went to school or they learned a trade. They don't have the money with which to carry out the trade, or they can't find employment even though they went to school. But you have those who went to school, bribed their teachers to pass or slept with them to pass. They have the certificate, they have no skill. They are unemployable. That's number one. You have those who didn't go anywhere, but they've grown up begging or loafing around or doing vulcanizing work or doing part of what created the crisis in Banex Plaza the other day, which is idle unemployed youth. As you're approaching the supermarket or the market, they come to you, Madam, what do you want? Oh, we have it in our shop. He doesn't know any shop. He doesn't have any shop. He takes you to the shop. And then, oh, you want to buy this television. It is, he said, please don't give him a bad price. I know you will now tell him it's 100,000. He has given him the map from where to start. The TV is selling for 43,000. And he says, well, you're trying to spoil market. I'll sell it for 95. He said, no. I'm the one who brought him. Okay, 80. So is it not too much? He says it's because of you. You pay 80 for a TV for which you pay.
Why do I think it happened to you before? Why do I think this has happened to you before?
Not only that, I carried out a detailed study of this across several markets and across different parts of the country.
That's what they do.
Now you pay 80,000 for a 43,000 thing you came to buy. He goes away, you thank him and even probably give him a little money. Of course, he doesn't need to come back in a hurry. Either that day or the next day, he'll come. There's a sharing formula. Now, all those boys running around the place, their total population exceeds that of those who own shops by 2. They are being demobilized from becoming responsible citizens, responsible adults, or responsible parents, because this is criminality as part of business. It's all over. The first time I witnessed it was in Lagos in the 80s, so it's not a new thing. Now that population has become the dominant population, and the concept of right and wrong has disappeared. So where is that taking us? It's taking us to people who are unemployable at the level of risk of a skill and unemployable at the level of value. Because anything you ask them to do, what they're looking for is an opportunity to make money for themselves. They don't see connection between office title and service delivery. And many of them are migrating into public office. That's why I spent $2 billion to go to Senate. And when I come on, oversight function to channels, you're telling me, oh, you need to show me your student. I said, but we're in a hurry. What do you have for us? And the thing gets taken to two. You can see the enormity of the crisis. And those who only focus on criticizing the federal government are pretending that the real crisis of the Nigerian state today is not the collapse of every value that holds a society together, spanning decades. We are suffering now. Was this not talked about? I think I said it on this program, long before Tinubu became president, that we're going to have a food crisis. When a farmer cannot harvest because of banditry, he planted. When some can't plant because of banditry. When food-producing areas are no longer accessible, instead the people are in refugee camps, you're spending billions to maintain them, their productivity is not coming into the economy. Why? Rice does not come because somebody made a motivational speech. It has to be planted. Yeah. Food prices, like you were saying before the program, tomato. If somebody is known to have tomatoes, people are prepared to hire a helicopter at millions of naira to come for. That's how house crisis become. You can't invent a tomato by speaking. Productivity is not there. Now, security is also not there. So the concept of the state as that place you run to for protection, either for electricity, or water, or whatever, keeps disappearing. And so securing loyalty to the Nigerian state is something, disloyalty has developed over the years and is at its peak now with the hunger. It is an elite and leadership problem and not an APC government problem because it was there with PDP. If either Peter Obi or Atiku had become president, the bulk of the problem we have now would have them because already the foundations were laid.
In other words, the chickens have come home to roost.
They have nowhere to roost. Actually, the chickens are all over the compound. They came back to roost, and so they are making a lot of noise. People can't sleep.
This is terrible. I mean, because when you look at just how chaotic the picture that you have painted is, the scenario and how dire it seems, I'm wondering whether we are truly, I mean, I'm sure, of course, we're all feeling the impact of what is going on in the economy. We're seeing the danger to, even those who are managing to, be productive in this economy. I'm just wondering whether we understand the urgency with which we need to, convene something to see what it is we can begin to do to get things back on track.
We understand the urgency.
Do you see any urgency anywhere?
Your pocket is compelling you to feel the urgency. I do. All our expenses have gone up. The elite context is different. In fact, 24th, 25th of this month, we're having a roundtable, a national roundtable on asymmetrical security challenges, the Army and national development. We're doing it in partnership with Nigerian Army Resource Center and practically all stakeholders, NUJ, NAN, and the rest of it. When we talk security, say what, I use the expression where we can convince something, to really find out what the problem is. One, we know what the problem is.
Yeah, but the question for me, is after you've convened that, what happens to...
Precisely, that's where I was headed.
Yeah,
because what you get from such gatherings is, I probably come and speak for 1 hour on the security challenges. First, I'll define security. I'll tell you how badly it impacts the economy and how it creates unemployment. After that, our recommendation that government should do something urgent about security. That is blissful chatter. First, all I told you are things you knew, what security does. My recommendation does not have any implementation strategy. That's what you've been getting. That's why you say, oh, we have so many reports, it's not believable. You can't implement something that has a generalized recommendation. Let's suppose the crisis I've come to address is youth unemployment. The facts are on the table. I've recommended the youth should be employed, should be this and that. Implementation strategies. Step number 1, take inventory of the total population of youth. Find out how many of them have skills. Find out how many among those who have skills, those who can't get a job. Find those who need to be retooled because they have no skill. On the basis of that, if I now say I'm planning an employment program, I'll know the right population. But with the general recommendation, provide jobs, as your aid as a governor, I'll come, Your Excellency, we are working on that recommendation. We are going to start a youth empowerment program, and you booked a hall for 500,000 people or whatever. On what basis? So executive decision-making cannot easily arise from nebulous recommendations. That's also in addition to the fact you have a totally violated environment. And one more point on that before I drop. Data matters. Recently, the federal government called for an inventory, population of all schools, primaries, and all levels. Now you're talking on employment and education. If you follow the 2005-2006 census, the number of young people who ought to be in primary school by that figure, after the school census, should have been 47 point something million. The actual number in school, as at that time, verified from school census, was 23 point something, 24 point something million. The number that should have been in secondary school at that point was, given the bracket of age for being in secondary school, was 33.9 million. The actual number in school was 6.4. Tertiary, we don't need to talk about it. Millions of people will take, there's no carrying capacity. So if 1.5 million people write JAMB, you have space for 450. They are all out there now, and they're not going into any vocational training. Where does that leave us? It leaves us with a massive growing population about which nobody knows anything and is not planning anything. And so the crisis deepens, the population increases. We define what the people need as the elite and leave it at that. We are defining it from here. There's a disconnect that needs to be addressed, and it's not happening the way it ought to. In many places, some, they are trying.
Well, Prof, good morning. And I don't know if it's apt to say
good morning and good to see you.
Yeah, same here. I'm sure it's apt to say Baraka de Salah, even though... Anyway, let me leave that one. You know, you've spoken to a number of
things.
Don't
leave it. Sorry to interrupt you. Don't leave it. Please say Baraka de Salah. If you don't get a ram, go and call the tail of somebody's own and use as evidence that you have ram.
Okay. Well, you know, Prof, I'd like you to speak to something, I don't know what to call it. Is it over-centralization, need for decentralization, or need for specificity in the states? Because, I mean, Chamberlain asked you a question around what the states are doing or not doing. Concerning the issue of electricity supply, resource control, revenue generation, minimum wage debacle, and all of that. Are we over-centralizing? Can we decentralize? Is there any specificity to the peculiar challenges of each state in each of these points?
First of all, the challenge revolves around the quality of human capital and the method we've been using to manage human capital. The second is the perception of leadership positions and leadership relevance in development. And the third is the fact that most states invest in infrastructure, but not in what will affect the people. And I use an example. I think the last, and I've mentioned this more than once on television, the last Federal Executive Council meeting of the Buhari government during his first term, or say the last, while in office, there was that Executive Council meeting where the sum of 4.2 billion was voted for 6 model primary secondary schools in the 6 geopolitical zones of the country. Fantastic idea. Each of these schools would be the best in facilities and all the rest of it. And my question is simple. Is this an investment in education, an investment in education infrastructure? Is investment in education infrastructure because new classrooms will deliver nothing? If you want model secondary schools, as I speak, there are over 120 unity schools all over the country. Spread that money among them, you'll have 100 and something model secondary schools. And each of them will begin to turn out something within the next 2 years after the facility and teacher upgrade, pay the teachers more, etc. But a model school of the type being talked about will probably be under construction for 5 years. It will not impact human capital availability in 10 years, so you just thrown good money away. The same thing, I think even before that, KB did the same, built new primary schools. Look, teacher education, teacher development, learning outcomes, that's the right kind of investment. So bringing it back substantially to the matter you raised, for as long as the perception of the problem that needs to be solved is wrong, for so long will you generate solutions that make no impact whatsoever on the people and on your environment. So question of decentralization, the other question to ask is, those who are occupying these positions now, how were they prepared for it? What did they think was their job to do in that place? They are not the ones who occupied that for the first time. Jakonde was governor in Lagos State. He lived in his own house. He made no unusual demands. He did in 4 years what many governors didn't do half of in 8 years. So it's not as if there are no paradigms. Centralization of authority must make sense in terms of somebody who takes ultimate responsibility or who devolves powers and responsibilities and has a feedback system that enables him find out that things are being properly done. Yes, the federal government, I think, set up a monitoring facility the other day. Every state governor who takes himself seriously should have a review meeting every week. On so and so thing we discussed during this council meeting was the update on it. That should happen so that you keep checking up what you've done. Also, before you run a new budget, you must look at the previous budget. We are supposed to deliver these 11 items. How many of them have we delivered? It's on the basis of that we do a new budget. But if you look at budgets, most states, but mostly states, but particularly federal, an old budget is picked up, baptized and given a new name. A revised, very often substandard version is put on the table. We pass it as a law to be carried out. That law is not carried out because much of it is not executed. And you look at the next budget, most of what you find in the previous one are still there. Look at states, check democracy 25 years, go and check all the things the governors have done. You find that many governors are giving boreholes to communities that were once given boreholes by their predecessors. That's why I say there's too much record of expenditure, no evidence, limited evidence of service delivery, questionable claims about impact because poverty is increasing as you're spending more. And when you come for a self-evaluation, you write out a list of the wonderful things you've done. And if anybody wasn't around and was only to read your report, they'll say your citizens or those you're governing are in heaven. That disconnect, that tendency to invent tales by moonlight as an account of what government is doing, particularly in the states. Painted buildings, oh, roads are being constructed. How are the people faring? That is what matters.
And I'm
those
not sure
who could pay their rent before, how many of them are no longer paying?
You know, Prof, I'm not even sure that, well, because we've spoken about the issue of accountability a number of times, and the question I keep asking is, who will monitor, who will prepare the accountability parameters, and who is going to monitor the states? Perhaps that's another matter for another time, but to the issue you mentioned about how the citizens are faring, it's very, very concerning. Allow me to draw you into the issue of this minimum wage matter in the light of the purchasing power of Nigerians. Now, there are those who are talking about how much the minimum wage should be, but very few people are talking about the productivity that should come with the minimum wage. To the private sector, an increased wage bill is an increased production bill. But I don't know if that is part of the conversation and whether or not we should decentralize the concentration of what the minimum wage should be per state.
If I am in state A and my total income, internally generated revenue plus federal allocation is 10 naira, and you ask for a minimum wage it cannot accommodate, I will not pay it. If I'm not as wealthy as Lagos State or as some other state, you can't point to Lagos State and tell me, see what they are paying. If you prefer their pay, go there. But there must be a wage that makes sense in any environment. It must be connected with income. You can't, okay, look, I'm your father. I give you an allowance of 10,000 a week. But there's your friend that the father gives 25,000 a week. And you say, well, Daddy, I don't know what the hell is going on in this house, you know. Fred and Musa, they all get 25,000. You're giving me 10,000. I say, my son, sit down. Let's look at it. This is my income. This is what goes into rent. This goes into feeding. This is what your siblings are getting. So that's why you'll get. You say, no, 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 Daddy, you're not being realistic. Look around. Others. I have no need to look around. I'm dealing with my income. I think that was the situation sometime in Anambra when Peter was governor. I believe it was the doctors who were on strike. We can't take this. We can't take that. If you go to Ebonyi State, this is what they are being paid. He said, well, go there and get paid. He actually brought the budget of the state. I think this also included teachers. Look at the state budget. Look at what will be taken out of it if I do this minimum wage. So you guys tell me how you think, because this is our money in this state. Some said, we don't care. You're the governor. Find the money. He didn't. So what am I leading up to? Minimum wage must make sense. Nigerian workers are suffering, but they also forget, let's also not forget that it is not only those in government employ that are workers. Number two, productivity. Responsible elite leadership, elite spending, and elite behavior will impact people in such a way that, yes, they'll know they are suffering, and they'll... Look, when Babangida told us that Nigerians should tighten their belt, it was a lot of people went along with it until it became unbearable. Now, the summary of what I'm saying is, the states, the pay packet of today is unrealistic given the new costs and inflation and still increasing inflation, worsened by insecurity, among other things. Each state, if we make a law saying that each state will pay the same thing, We must look across, since we say we're borrowing democracy from the US and the rest of the world, we must ask ourselves whether the man in Texas earns the same thing as the person in Illinois or in New York. So the working population is having a rough time, no question, because in their own case, unlike private people, they must mandatorily go to work every day. It carries costs. But when you move it to national minimum wage, I can understand that. But you have an organization, I have an SME, I produce bread, and you tell me minimum wage is this and that, and I can't afford it. So employers of labor, I believe, will be able to negotiate what their workforce can live with and what they... But if you make it mandatory, you're not being realistic. All trees don't have the same height, the same gait, or the same kind of leaves. So further conversation on bringing greater realism to bear on this debate is important. But what makes it really terrible is that successive governments, and this is probably the 8th of such governments, never managed to keep to the agreements they make with ASU and many other unions. And the usual plea is that there's no money. But when you watch that money, huge sums of money, billions of naira, can be spent within a few days of being requested from a government that says there's no money, for instance, to handle education. It makes you distrustful. It damages citizen loyalty. Patriotism is thrown out through the window, etc.
All right. We need to anchor that point. But one of the other suggested solutions would be states have now got to be in a race to ensure they have cottage industries across board, because that could be one of the ways we could address some of these challenges. Thank you for coming on this morning, Professor Okeke-Chukwu, Executive Director, Development Specs Academy. We will be back in a moment, but Business Morning on Sunrise Daily is up next.
Well, it's a public holiday right here in Lagos, Nigeria. We know the stock market is closed, but other markets are still open at this time. Hope inflation has not dented your enjoyment too much. But first, let's get to the top stories that set your agenda now. We see global markets are open for trade today. The oil market is open, but we're seeing prices slipping in early Asian trade. This morning, $82.33 a barrel. That's what we have for Brent, 0.40% down. WTI crude, $77.76 a barrel, also down 0.4%. Global benchmark prices still were down about 29 cents in the global market today, and we're expecting, a slew of data coming out from China that's going to give us a sense of where the China economy, if it's still resilient at this time, and definitely we know how that impacts the oil market. Let's get a check on the FX market. We see the close for Friday. That was a bearish close that we had on Friday, 0.44%. That's for NFM, 1,482 naira to the dollar. That was a close from the previous 1,476 naira. For NAFEX, 1,479 naira from 1,471. That's a close for Friday, 0.57% down. And analysts who track are expecting some kind of stability also this week right here. But talking about stability, prices, Nigeria's headline inflation rate is still climbing higher despite continued attention from the monetary side of things. Headline inflation, 33.95% from 33.69% in the previous month. We see food inflation still inching up, but we can see the rate of rise is still slower. But at the end of the day, if you go to the markets, it feels much higher. Down there's core inflation, 27.40%. Urban inflation, where we are right now, 36.34%, and rural inflation, that rose by 31.45% from 31.82%. So it's another high right there for the inflation numbers. All right, to other stories now. We see 2024 African Export-Import Bank meeting as that came to a close earlier. One resounding story from the meeting is that of Dangote Refinery. The founder and chairman of Dangote Group, Mr. Aliko Dangote, shared difficulties he faced on his path to success after borrowing a total of $5.5 billion towards the project. He said his journey to building the refinery has revealed that the West is not totally in support of industrializing Africa. Take a listen.
There is quite a pushback First of all, you have heard what Jeffrey Sachs said. What he said, is that I don't believe if the West want us to progress in terms of industrialization. Industrialization is something that is the basic that we need. We need to produce what we consume.
Yeah.
But I don't think if there's any support coming from the West. As a matter of fact, during the COVID period, some of the international banks really were looking forward to making sure that they push us into default of our loans so that the project will just be dead. And that didn't happen with the help of banks like Afrexim Bank.
That was Mr. Dangote there giving us a brief summary of his getting to bring out that refinery. Definitely quite a challenging story right there. But talking about the numbers right now, let's drill down on those inflation numbers for May. Joining us now is Dr. Ifeanyi Jeremiah Uba. He's Head Investment Research Commercial Partners Limited, joining me via Zoom. Great to have you on the show.
Thank you for having me.
Right, so we see the numbers. There's another new high, and the last numbers we got, we were quite, happy about the rate of rise was actually slowing. But looking at the numbers this time, do you see any bright spots?
Oh yes, we actually got some mixed data from the MBS data in the inflation figures in May. While we saw year-on-year numbers inch up higher, we saw month-on-month reduced slightly, but the core inflation and headline inflation are still in levels that are very uncomfortable for me to say we should start throwing a merry-go-round. Inflation is something that affects everybody from the rich to the poor, but when we drill down to the numbers, we see that it is the most essential services that are having the highest hike compared to last year.
Right, and we did get a check on the markets over the weekend. We checked the prices of RAM. We checked the prices of, normal condiments that we normally buy to, celebrate this season. And the prices are really, really high at this time. Talk to me about how much you think the average consumer, can take right now in Nigeria.
Well, it's definitely something to be upset about. Going to the shopping mall or even going to the canteen to buy food, we see inflation everywhere. And we see even producers or sellers coming up with tactics like shrinkflation in order to deal with the rising prices, because there's a limit you can transfer to your consumer, right? Now, although we see prices inch up when we compare like this festival to last year's festival, on a month-on-month basis, prices don't just jump up. It has been going slowly. So when we compare this month to last month, we probably see prices probably inch down. So maybe a tactic to have done is to have bought maybe our condiments or around 3 months earlier, factoring the cost of feeding.
Right, and now that we see the holidays be over by tomorrow, do you think prices will come back down to reality, at some point?
Well, it's very difficult to tell you the trajectory of inflation in Nigeria because there is expectation of some shocks. We have the labor contesting the government in terms of minimum wage increase, and we definitely know that has some inflationary tendencies. And aside from that, we have energy cost implication because immediately there are some oil shocks. We also understand that there's a substantial amount of our economy that depends on energy. So it's also going to aggravate the inflationary situation. On one hand, we see the CBN trying to reduce inflation by promoting contractionary policies and pushing the interest rates up. But there's a limit to this, and particularly when we have the exchange rate moving away from us.
Right, and talking about, the inflation numbers still rising, we see federal government and Labour still trying to find that sweet spot when it comes to a national minimum wage. Where do you think inflation will be when both parties finally agree?
To be honest, it's going to be difficult to project. If history is one to tell us, during the Obasanjo regime, when we saw a jump in minimum wage, we also saw a very high increase in inflation. So if we get an inflation, if we get a minimum wage that is far above what we have now, let's say 300%, 200% increase, we are definitely going to see inflation follow that suit. As you know, what we are facing now is cost push inflation, not necessarily demand. But immediately we have an increase in minimum wage, there will be an aggravated demand push inflation because more money will be chasing fewer goods. The woman selling beans will have more money and people will be buying and ready to increase price to try and cut the line. So we have this ripple effect all over the economy, and we are definitely going to see the inflation figures down.
And how do you think this is going to influence what the MPC does, at the next meeting? You did mention that they're running out of wiggle room when it comes to raising interest rates.
So, the interest rate comes at a cost. It comes at the cost of borrowing, and it comes at the cost to businesses, and increasing the interest rates to a point just aggravates the misery in the economy. So the Apex Bank governor has a lot to think about and factor in. But knowing that the real runaway cow in the room is inflation, and doing everything to tame it in collaboration with fiscal policy by now will be the next approach for a formidable outcome.
I guess this season we'll call it the runaway ram. At this point, thank you so much. It was great having you, Dr.
Thank you for having me.
Dr. Ifeanyi Jeremiah Uba is the Head Investment Research Commercial Partners Limited. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
All right, we'll take a break now. When we come back, we'll find out how organizations are navigating all of these challenges as it impacts talent and the labor force at this time. That's our next conversation. Just stay with us.
There's a lot of fear in the journey towards building wealth, especially in an ever-changing economy like ours. And you know why that is? It's because navigating the world of investments without facts and insights is like walking in the dark. But that fear stops now. Opportunities open up to you when you have a trusted guide. Someone with over 28 years of experience advising individuals, corporates, and governments to achieve their dreams through strategic and well-timed investments. That someone is AfriInvest. The journey of 1,000 miles is easier when you have a trusted guide and partner who knows the way. So, take the first step. AfriInvest. Simplifying investments, creating wealth.
Welcome back. Well, with inflation rising further, we're seeing more strain on organizations and talent at this time as employees leave organizations for better opportunities. It puts production under risk for most companies. Let's see how organizations and talents can navigate all of this. Joining us now for this conversation is Fred Okobi, Head Business Intelligence and Research at Phillips Consulting Limited. And we also have Tracy Afolabi Johnson, Senior Consultant, People Transformation Unit at PCL, both right here in the studio. Great to have you both.
Thank you. Thank you. Nice to yeah.
Yeah, so definitely the inflation numbers, keep rising at this time. I know this is putting a strain on the worker at this time, and even on on the organizations too. So talk to me about the jackpot syndrome right now. We know this is really impacting, organizations that used to have like 20 people in a department now have about 5. doing the same job. So talk to me about how this is impacted. I'll start with you.
Yeah, so the thing with the jackpot syndrome is, or we'll call this relocation at this time, the in-season relocation has impacted, human capital. And so what that does is it sort of impacts output, right? You do not have the same number of people doing the same, jobs, and in terms of quality, you start to ask yourself how, what is input like, right? How businesses starting to think, how do you keep the best hands? How do you manage, people who remain, and how do you make them satisfied, right? So the goal of the report itself was to, figure out attrition, right? How do you manage people who are your best resources, right? And how do you keep them going so that you don't keep losing people and then having to train new ones, really.
Right, because it is a challenge, bringing in new people and having to train them at this time. But break the report down for me now, because we've seen situations where 10 people were running the show at some point, then we see maybe 5 leave and 5 have to carry on the work of the other. So how do you keep those ones that stay? How do you keep them happy? Talk to me about how this plays out in your report.
Okay, so really for now, it's really beyond money for employees. People understand the current state of the economy in Nigeria, and they know that it's affecting businesses. So employees are looking for things beyond money because they have that understanding. So what are the other ways that we can keep employees motivated? How can we keep them happy? How can we keep them engaged? And that's where the non-financial reward package comes in. While we're developing this report, we wanted to get opinions of employees on what their companies are currently doing, to offer them, to keep them retained and happy within the business. We also wanted to get the perspective of the employers. And so we carried out this and we asked them those questions. And from the outcome of the survey, very few organizations currently are offering their employees non-financial reward packages. And we have few of them also, they mentioned that it's being done fairly and also done very poorly. We also asked employers the same question. What are you doing to attract and keep your employees? We asked the employees the same questions, and the same thing, also occurred. And during the session that we had 2 weeks ago at Whitbaker, one of the CEO of First Primos, he mentioned that also that CEOs, business owners are really looking for how to keep their business profitable, achieve growth and profitability in their business. And they're just open to any initiatives at all that will keep people, that will keep their employees happy. We also asked the employees, what are the things that we can do that will keep you happy? And they were not related to cost at all. We had things around work-life balance, recognition programs, remote work, career development opportunities. These are things that would keep employees retained and happy within the business. Yeah, so we spoke a lot about this in the report. And
with keeping employees happy at this time, you also need to keep the organization happy and profitable going forward. So talk to me about how difficult it is for organizations at this time to actually make the disposable income is disposed, at this time. Talk to me about that.
So the title of the report really is finding a balance between the economic challenge and your talent management strategy, right? So we're looking at both ends. We're looking at the employees and we're also looking at, the employers. And so what we found out really is that, employers in this case right now are managing, their finances, right? They're being smart with it. They're managing finances. They're not just throwing, away, salaries, but what they're doing is they're increasing flexibility. And so today you would notice that there are a lot more commonalities. We know that, COVID has changed the way we work, right? So you see a lot of people working from home. You see a lot of flexible relationships between employers and their employees. We know how the cost of living crisis has impacted everything. With that, with transportation being a huge chunk, right? And so what that does is you have a lot of people who can now work from home, make sure they are not having to be at the office at every time, and just to make sure that operations financially are safeguarding their businesses, or businesses are safeguarding their operations while keeping their employees happy.
Yeah, I did talk about the first mover advantage in the market. Break that down for us.
Can I pick that? All right.
Yeah, fine. Why not?
So what that means really is that businesses are some businesses are getting it right. Right now. So there are businesses who I'll give PCL, Philips Consulting Limited, as an example. Philips Consulting Limited has been working from home since COVID, right? And so what that means is, as the economy has been changing, right? We're feeling the impact, right? But we're not having to feel the impact as compared to people who will work, who go to office every day, right? And then when you look at also non-financial reward. Philips Consulting, they go through a lot of trainings, right? Every quarter we have, myself and my colleagues go through a lot of, quarterly trainings. So, businesses are changing the narrative. I know of, I won't name names, but I know about firms who, yes, I will give this example. This is a financial reward, right? But they are adjusting salaries to not directly match inflation, but to let their employees know that, look, we understand that things are going on, and it is impacting how much you earn monthly. And so what they do is that they adjust salaries slightly every month. So what does that do for the employee? They're excited. They want to be, a part of this business long term, or however the case may be. So what that means is, what first mover advantage means is, businesses have to step away from that top-down approach, where you and your stakeholders just agree to, what employees will do. And then give them that, okay, this is the route we should follow. A lot of times you have to figure out, okay, what do they really want, and that is where Tracy at People Transform, she's a People Transformation Specialist. So what she does, what PT will do for you is, find that peculiarity between your industry and then the nuances of, what your employees want.
Right. Mm-hmm. And Tracy, there's also the barcode. For the report, definitely, I'm sure they would like to know, how it actually works, with the barcode and how you can actually download that report.
Okay, so I think you can go to LinkedIn. We have it on LinkedIn. We have the link there. So just scan it. Once you scan it, you get the link, and then you can click on it and you can download the report.
Also, right there on our screen, right now you can also scan the code, and you also get the report. Every detail right there, and I'm sure it wasn't easy, putting that report together. But break it down for me. I'm sure you found some really interesting, unusual details, when you were putting that together. Talk to me about that.
Okay, so that's why we call it non-financial reward packages. So we have the idea that people are looking for money. Again, like I mentioned earlier, people understand where we are right now, and the generation of the workforce that we have today, they are looking beyond money. They want a place that can offer them career development opportunity, a place they can grow in their career, a place that doesn't stifle their creativity, a place that promotes flexibility. That's what the workforce is looking for right now, and that's why forward-thinking organizations are going to create policies and processes around that. Outcomes of this survey, most of the responses for what would keep them in a business and keep them engaged the highest was learning and development opportunities, because they want to grow in that business. There has to be an alignment between the business goals and their personal goals. They mentioned flexible work also, a place where you can come in at will and close from work at will, a place that you can work remotely or go on some days, and that is even connected to productivity. It helps the business productivity. It helps you think of other ways that you can measure business productivity. This is what the people are looking for today, and this is what we captured in the report. So businesses can look at that report and look for other creative ways that they can keep their employees engaged and ensure that their business is productive outside money.
And Fred, definitely, we know when organizations are trying to save money, they're going to try and shave off some of the labor force working for them at that time. But talk to me about, as an employee, how to keep your position, to make sure you're not one of those that has to be cut off.
It's simply about finding ways to be better, right? Taking on greater responsibilities within the firm. You have to step out from, okay, this is my role. You have to step out from that narrow scope of, okay, this is my role and this is what I should do, right? You have to start thinking beyond that. So how my decisions, how my responsibilities impacting, the greater business as a whole, right? So with that thinking, yes, the business will understand, look, you're not just an employee, you have a buy-in into, whatever the business is trying to achieve.
Right, and Tracy, still looking at the whole Jaguar syndrome, I'm sure there's some bright spots, because we've heard some people talk about, you leave the country, you go and get some good opportunities, but you still come back here and do some great things. Is that what you're seeing?
I'll give an example. Someone in the banking sector that we interviewed when we were developing the report, he mentioned, oh yes, people want to japa, but the grass is not actually greener on that side. It's not so easy as people make it seem. For him, he's enjoying where he works here. He praised his organization, you know, they are doing things to keep them productive. So he said he would rather focus his energy on achieving his goals there while looking for side hustles, other ways to generate revenue. So really within Nigeria, people are thinking of survival strategies, thinking of other things that they can do outside their 9 to 5. You know, that's why this flexible work arrangement comes in. As long as I can give in my best to this business because I'm working within my time, I can do other things to generate revenue, and I'm still happy within everything that is happening in the confines of the country.
Now, how do you balance that without getting distracted, you know, from your main work?
Oh, it's simple. KPIs, strict KPIs. What am I supposed to do in my organization? What are the 3 things I'm supposed to achieve? Once I can get that going, I can also do other things. And that's where productivity comes in, being able to measure your productivity.
Right, and definitely the minimum wage issue will definitely play into all of this. At this time, we're still seeing negotiations between the federal government and labor, at this time. Do you think this keeping workers on edge?
Yeah, I mean, definitely, it would keep workers on edge because again, it's a domino effect really. If labor settles on how much they think workers are worth, and then employees and then employers will start to ask themselves, okay, so how much do we pay people in the private sector? It's such a, it's a tango, right? I'm really hopeful that they reach a middle ground sometime in the coming weeks. But I guess I believe the goal of this report is trying to figure out, so what do you do when money isn't enough, right? How do you figure out how to satisfy your employees? How do you keep them engaged? How do you keep them excited, right? And so for the public sector and also the private sector, employees have to start thinking in this regard.
Right, and Tracy, definitely, talking about employees started to think, in that level. We know organizations will have to step it up, at some point, to meet up with most of the obligations at this time. But break it down for me, where the headwinds are there, right now, but we all have to navigate it, somehow. So talk to me about how both the employees and the organizations can actually work together and not work against, each other in this situation.
I think it starts with business leaders, managers, HR leaders coming to understand what really matters to employees and then getting their buy-in, getting their opinion. Because there's one thing about shoving things down people's throats and then getting their buy-in into what you want to implement in the business. So just getting people, asking them what matters to you, what will keep you happy, what will keep you engaged, and then finding what the return on investment will be on the business, seeing how it's going to affect the business, and then implementing it, creating processes, policies around them, implementing and also assessing the impact it's having on the business and the employees. Once you do that consistently, continually, and keep on getting their feedback on it, you're going to achieve success.
And talking about getting constant, feedback at this time, definitely that takes a lot, of commitment, from both sides. How do you keep that going?
First of all, let me say that PCL will help you get great feedback at any point, in the business. So help you make, as a business, make these decisions. But I mean, I wouldn't say it's easy to do, right? I mean, it takes a lot of work. But feedback can be taken at any time. It can be taken when you want to make huge, massive strategic decisions, right? It can be taken when you also want to make decisions that, will impact the livelihood of your employees, right? So you have to keep thinking about, when will feedback be necessary and when do you think, look, I mean, by virtue of the industry or the sector that we work in, I mean, our employees will, value this. So it's a...
Right, and from what you've seen from this report, so far, I'd like to get your outlook for this Japa syndrome, in Nigeria right now, and for the organization, because we keep hearing about divestment, at this time, and definitely those are people, losing jobs, when you see divestment. What are you seeing in the future, seeing the macroeconomic headwinds right now, both of them?
Okay, do you want to answer that?
I think that that's why we just have to keep on being innovative, thinking of new ways, new solutions, new ways of doing things. Both people, both the business leaders, and both the employees. That's why I mentioned that people are also looking for other ways they can generate revenue aside their 9 to 5. That's how employees are, adapting to everything that is happening to the economic situation, and also for business leaders. They are thinking of other things that they can do in their business. What are other product lines that we can explore? What are other services that we can offer? So we have to keep on being innovative constantly for us to adopt everything that is happening in the economy.
All right, and I guess all hope is not lost at this point.
No, of course, all hope is not lost, yeah.
All right, I want to thank you both for coming on.
Yeah,
We're talking to Tracy Afolabi Johnson, Senior Consultant, People Transformation Unit at PCL, and Fred Okobi is the Head Business Intelligence and Research, Phillips Consulting Limited. It was great having you, you both, and let's hope we all don't jackpot.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Take care.
All right, so definitely it's still a public holiday, and the markets are still closed. They're going to be closed again tomorrow. We're going to get the first trading day for this week. That's coming on Wednesday with Cityway. The market actually reacts to that, but for Friday's close, 0.71% was quite a positive close last week. The equity cap is at 56.52, chilling from the last close. And we look at the trading activity for the market. We see it was just deals in the red, 33,709 lower compared to the previous one. But for volume, that was up 54.6% at 2.63 billion. So it was positive sentiment. That's how the markets, that's how investors left the markets last week. And definitely we'll see if that's going to play out, even though it's a holiday shortened week this week. That's it from me on Business Morning. I'm Ladi Williams. It's back to the Sunrise Daily team.
For this year, the focus is on the forthcoming off-cycle governorship elections in Edo and Ondo State. And the electoral umpire is not mincing words regarding its determination to ensuring that the elections are credible.
For these reasons, all election officials should be guided by the following principles: integrity, impartiality, transparency, professionalism, gender and disability sensitivity, and due consideration and support for elderly, pregnant women, nursing mothers, and persons with disability.
However, the Director General of the Electoral Institute is emphasizing the importance of training for personnel to enhance electoral integrity.
The off-cycle elections in Edo and Ondo State, which is really the central theme, it presents a significant opportunity for us to demonstrate our commitment to conducting free, fair, credible, and inclusive elections. This is what Professor Abubakar Momo stands for. It is our responsibility as an EMB to ensure that the electoral process is conducted with utmost professionalism and integrity. And this can only be achieved through rigorous training and continuous capacity building of election personnel.
Although there is a consensus on the importance of training for election officials, some of the participants believe that the electoral umpire also needs to keep an eye on the recruitment process of personnel.
What is the character of the individuals who are being recruited to serve as ad hoc officials or manage our elections? And so INEC needs to institute mechanisms that checks the character of those individuals. Because you can give training to anybody and they will have the competence, but if they don't have the character, they will yield to politicians and falsify results or prefill result sheets that we saw in places like Kogi and Imo. So it's not necessarily about training. It's about the character of the people.
In conjunction with INEC and with support with INEC, thanks to INEC, because what INEC does for us most times is see how to train the polling unit agents. We do that a lot. But just like I said, the influence of money and other variables in our election, you see, most of the polling unit agents, they got bought over at the polling unit and they don't do what they're supposed to do for their parties.
INEC will be conducting off-cycle governorship elections in Edo and Ondo states in September and November this year, a time many hope that the Commission will bring the lessons learned from the 2023 general elections and all previous off-cycle elections to bear.
All right, welcome back. Yes, indeed. We're turning our attention to the build-up to the forthcoming Edo governorship elections. We've got Pastor Izeyamu joining us virtually. Good morning. Thank you for joining us on the program today.
Good morning and happy Salah.
Thank you. Wish you same. Well, yes, INEC doing their thing, preparing for that election. What's your impression of how the preparations and plans being put in place by INEC? Is your party happy with it so far?
Well, so far, so good. We just did the continuous voters registration. There were hitches here and there, but overall, I think it was fair enough. We're happy that those who have come of age had the opportunity to register. We just hope that subsequent arrangements be better. But so far, so good. We have no complaint.
So what is it that you like to see the commission perfect for the Edo governorship elections?
Well, in terms of their logistics, in terms of their personnel, we want them to be able to put things on time. They are bringing materials, the materials should be brought on time. If they are using technology, the technology should function and not malfunction. And their personnel should be above board. So they should be very careful in this election process to ensure that those they bring on board, especially ad hoc officers, and even INEC officials, are people who have integrity, who will do the needful to ensure that we have a free and fair election. If that is done, I can assure you that we are good to go.
Okay, well, I mean, you're not a stranger to this kind of processes. You've vied for that seat yourself a number of times. But for your party, the APC, and the candidate of the APC, yes, the campaign council was inaugurated some days ago, and Senator and former governor of Edo State, Adam Shomale, did call and rally support, wanting everybody to pull together. So far, are you happy with the kind of arrangements going on? Is everybody supporting the candidates? Are you all on the same page?
Definitely. If you had watched the inauguration, you would have seen that it was a full house. Comrade Adam Shomale, who is the chairman of the campaign council, was present. The Minister of Niger Delta, who is a representative from Edo State, Honorable Abubakar Momo, was present. And a lot of the people who even contested with our candidates were there. Dr. Afolabi, the retired Federal Permanent Secretary, was there. General Ariabe was there. Immediate past chairman, Colonel Dibidi Musa, was there. I was also there. It was a full house. The former deputy governor of Edo State, Dr. Pius Dubu, was present. Ifnoke Imaso, the former deputy governor of Edo State, was there. So it was a full house. And the message is that we are one united family. And for this election, we are totally committed to winning Edo State. In
other words, we can say that everybody has buried the hatchet of how the primaries went. Things are going on smoothly now.
Definitely. APC is a disciplined party. We are one family in Edo State. Of course, we have a right to disagree. And in any contestation, there must be disagreement. We had that, but we've gone above that. And the campaign council is a consensus arrangement. All interests were represented, including even those who just came to join us. So we are good to go, and we are ready for the campaigns.
But there's a certain Mr. John Mayaki, who was the Director of Communication for the APC Campaign Council 2020. He did say categorically he will not support Senator Pablo because he feels the senator does not have what it takes to be the candidate and lead the state.
Well, you know, people react differently when you have disagreement. Mayaki is a very close friend of mine, and it's somebody that I have immense respect for. If you also read his write-up before now, you will know that he has been one of the foremost advocates governorship candidates. So if there are some disagreements, try to smoothen them and deal with it. In any event, it's a human being. He has a right to his opinion, just like I have a right to mine. I can tell you that the consensus in APC, and in fact, majority of Edo people believe we have a fantastic young man as candidate, and by the grace of God, it's our prayer that he becomes the next governor.
Excuse me. But it's taken so long for the campaign council to be inaugurated. When you look at just how far other political parties have gone in terms of their own campaigns, why has it taken this long for the APC to be able to get its own campaign council on track?
Yeah, you know, when so many people are interested in the process, it takes a while to be able to put the names together. In our own case, there were so many people who wanted to be part of it. In fact, we had a problem. Even right now, people are still saying, please, we want to be involved, we want to be involved. There's a lot of disillusion with the current administration in Edo State, and everybody wants to be part of the history of ensuring that there's a change of government. So practically everybody wanted to come in. And then again, there were so many people coming in from the PDP and other political parties who wanted to give them a sense of belonging. So we needed to take our time. But having put that council in place, I want you to be rest assured that we are set to go and we mean business in the campaign and in the election.
Just some news coming in here, and I don't know whether you can confirm this to us. We're seeing here that Mr. Philip Schreiber has declared support for the APC candidate. Is that something you are privy to?
Yes. Only some days ago, he donated his campaign materials. He gave us vehicles, he gave us his office. You see, the support that our candidate is getting is unbelievable and unprecedented. Philip Schreiber has not formally joined the APC, but he told people that, you know, he likes the humility of our candidate. And having interacted with him, can say categorically that he means well. And you will recall that even when he was contesting an aspirant in the PDP, he said that he was concerned with somebody that the people can trust, somebody that he called a homeboy. And he has said that the candidate of the APC fits that description. And if he's not contesting again, then everything that he has, he will give his support. He has donated 50 Sienna vehicles to us. He gave us a fully equipped office. And he has promised to do a lot more. He's not the only person doing that. So many others are doing it. And we thank God for this development. Very positive for the popularity of our candidate.
Well, you are trying to unseat the candidate of the, will I say, remove the political party, because the tenure of the current governor, Godwin Obaseki, is coming to an end. And, you know, of course, certainly his party, the PDP, is still very much interested. But there is now a third force, the dynamics introduced by the Labour Party in Edo State, which had a very good showing during the presidential elections in the state. How do you think that dynamics is going to affect what it is that the APC might be coming up with, given the fact that they have, you know, they've been early starters in this particular game? Their campaign has been on, and, you know, it seems to be a lot of silence on the part of the APC going into the elections.
Well, the candidate of Labour is a relative of mine. He's a great guy. But I want you to understand that APC in Edo State has deep roots. And the candidate of our state, of our party, is very well liked. The other two candidates are trying to do catch-up. We see billboards all over the place, basically trying to introduce themselves to the people of Edo State. On the eve of an election, they are trying to tell Edo people, please look at who I am. Our candidate does not need to do that. Already very well known. The activities he has done, the philanthropy he has done in the past speaks for him. And his people overwhelmingly elected him to go to the Senate. So, you know, a part of Edo State has already endorsed him before as the fit and proper person to represent them. So we have a candidate that is very well known. And our party is deeply entrenched in the state. Now, Labour did very well in the presidential election, but you yourself know too that the variables are no longer there. Our people who are predominantly Christians were not happy with the Muslim ticket. That itself was a major factor in what played out in the door. That is not there right now. Our candidate is a deacon, even for church. So the church, to a large extent, is solidly behind it because they see him as one of their own. So a lot of the things that you saw play out during the presidential election will not be there now. And I can assure you that this time we intend to win practically every local government.
It's interesting that you have based, just how well Labour performed in the last elections on just religion, because some people will disagree with you and say, look, Edo State there's anything that is renowned for, it's youthful energy that has got a very strong base of young people who were predominantly the supporters of the Labour Party in the last presidential elections. And they think that youth base will still come to play in this coming elections. How do you intend to galvanize the youth base, especially in the light of just how difficult things are in the economy and how a lot of people are looking to the center or even blaming the center for what is happening with the APC at the helm of affairs? How do you think that's going to translate to, your being able to gather votes in Edo State?
Thank you. Well, there's no doubt about it that one cannot play the role of youth. So when I talked about the Christian factor, that was for me a significant factor, especially in the urban area of Edo South. The youth, yes, they have a role to play. And interestingly, APC realizes that, and that is why our candidate and his deputy represent the youth generation. If you look at two of them, they are, very young compared to candidates of the PDP and that of Labour. So if you are talking about youth appeal, I think that we are going to capitalize on that. We are going to enjoy that. We are going to leverage on that because the candidate of the APC is in his 50s, the deputy governor is in his 40s. If you want to compare that to the other side, you will see a serious gap. So in terms of youth appeal, in terms of those that the youth will see as somebody from their generation, I think APC will have the edge.
Well, Pastor, what would you say to those who are of the opinion that, in fact, they say that the former governor, Senator Shomale, has reconciled with Obaseki to support Mr. Godalo?
That is not true. In their desperation for acceptance, they would, try to reach out even to those they have vilified. You will recall some years ago what Governor Obaseki did to Shomale, even trying to ban him from his own state. A governor that you rode on his back, a governor that made it possible for you to become governor. You became governor and you went out against him to the extent that he said cannot even come to those states again, that you would deal with him. People don't forget, and the internet, who made sure that you never forget. So Oshomole is not a fool. He knows who are his friends. Yes, when it's time for elections, you begin to do things you didn't do before. So they have named the labor after Oshomole. That recognition, even though we know it was done for partisan favor, but the reality is that it's well deserved. Oshomole has been used as a national president of Labour, so putting him there does not change anything. Oshomole will reconcile anybody in the interest of development of our state.
Yeah, so that's the thing. Should we discard that?
If you are listening to him when the campaign council was being inaugurated, he made it very clear that winning those states is topmost priority. And for the interest of our people, there needs to be a change in government. Obaseki, for example, is my senior brother. I give him the greatest respect. But the reality is that, he has not done well. And that is why you will see that even his candidate tries to keep a distance from him. Everywhere he goes, he ensures that he doesn't go near him because they have told him that if you go with him, you won't win.
But Pastor, you know better than many people that this is what politicians do. For instance, the former governor too said things about you, then he later supported you. So what makes you think that why shouldn't people who are watching think, look, this is all politics, anything can happen?
Well, the truth about it is that Oshomole, thank God, is somebody that is very vocal. And in the course of the campaign, you will know where his interest lies. But I want to assure you and tell you that Oshomole is fully behind candidates. He's fully in support and is the chairman of the campaign council and is going to campaign for him fully. Those of us in APC, we are resolved. We know where we are going. If people from other parties are coming to join us, even their own former governorship candidates, we are not going to go against our own person. We are going to work for him because we believe he's in this. Let me tell you something. Honestly speaking, we also believe that it's in our interest to align with the federal. the frosty relationship that the governor has with the president, not in the interest of our state. We're a minority state. We want to ensure that we get the best from the federal government. We want to be able to go to the federal government and make appeal, and that appeal will be heard. And the present governor does not have a good relationship with our president. That is not how politics is played. So we want to ensure that we align with the federal government. And by the grace of God, we are going to support our candidates so that from September, we will know that APC is part of the PDP family at the national, part of the APC family at the national level.
That naturally comes to my own mind is to ask the question of what the people should expect from any election. I'm looking at the website of the Edo State government and also the federal government's website on Edo State, and I'm seeing that at the very least we will number 12 natural resources from Edo State. And when we look at that, seeing that, for instance, Edo State is very, very rich in bitumen, and people are complaining about bad roads. It's not just in this government. It's been ages that these things have happened. What should the people be looking forward to? What questions should the people of Edo, the voters in Edo State, be asking about from whoever it is that is going to become their governor?
Thank you. The reality is that our people have been church-charged. Our people are not happy. A lot of money has come in the past 8 years. There's very little to show for it. We are indebted, the most indebted state in the South-South. And all we hear about our MOUs does not translate to any serious development. There are no industries. You talked about bitumen. We're not doing anything with solid minerals, even though our state is very rich in it. But the candidate that we have is somebody that has a track record of performance. This is somebody that built 2 companies, Chapman Computers and then Intersatcom. He built them from the scratch and turned them to serious companies. His company, Intersatcom, for example, in terms of broadband development, is one of the foremost companies in Nigeria today. He's somebody that is a businessman, is somebody who has done well. And with a good relationship with the federal government, we believe that a lot of these solid minerals can be converted to wealth for Edo State. Edo State should not depend only on what comes in from the federation account. There's so much we can get if we have the right person in government. And this is a young man who is passionate about the development of our state. Even before he became a senator, he had done so much. As a senator, he's doing so much. So we know him and we trust him. And we believe that if he has the opportunity to preside over the commonwealth of our state, we want to do more. We have looked at the others, and it's clear to us that these are people who have never shown interest in our state. They have never bothered about what happens here. They have no investment here. And in the light of their career, in their old age, they have come to want to rule us. That is very insulting. We want somebody that we can trust. And I can assure you, with the team that this young man is trying to put together, all the various resources that we have will be harnessed for the development of our state. This young man is business, and we're going to support him to make Edo State come back to its own glory. Right now, we are down the ladder, but we're going to come up again.
Pastor, just as Chamberlain said, it's what politicians say. Politicians make promises. Politicians give assurances. But it's when they get into office that we'll hear something like, we didn't know things were this bad. We didn't know that this was the condition. Sometimes the challenge is not in the capacity of the person. Sometimes it is not in whether or not the state has capacity. It is sometimes in the capacity of the people. It's about the capacity of the people that they're going to be working with. There's going to be political pressure, economic pressure, human resources pressure. And it's not like the people, as you have said, do not have the skills and everything. Sometimes it is in how these things are managed. The challenges of civil service cannot be remonstrated in this particular situation. What challenges do you see ahead of whoever becomes governor? Well, in this case, you would say your candidate. And what are the impediments you see in the way? What are the things you would suggest, since you also, at some point wanted to be governor of Edo State?
Thank you, my brother. Well, I agree with you. I agree with you. There are challenges. But you know, we have a local parable where we come from. And that is that if the fish wants to go bad, it starts from the head. The head is key. You want a governor that is trustworthy, a governor that truly wants the state to develop. When you have that kind of mindset, gathering a team who would help you is not a problem. But when you have a governor who does not mean well for our state, a governor who is trying to do catch-up with billionaires, a governor who wants to embezzle as much as he can so that he can also be at par with some of his friends, then we're in trouble. The reason why we chose this young man is that even before he became a senator, what he has done is unbelievable. If you see the list of projects this young man has done on his own, in Edo Central, where he comes from, it's praiseworthy. Compare that to those who are competing with him, and you will find out that there's no basis for comparison. These guys are telling you, oh, they went to very good schools, they speak very good English, they're very articulate, beautiful. But that is not what we want. As you rightly said, we want to look at somebody that we can trust. God said, we don't look at the outward appearance. I look at the heart. Edo is the heartbeat of Edo State. We want to look at the heart of the person. And for us,
my apologies, Pastor. You know, sometimes it's difficult to really see a human heart because you can't even see it. Can you hear me? If you can hear me, Pastor, you know, sometimes no X-ray can show the heart of a man. But let me just ask you this one last one before I go back to my colleagues.
The Bible says by their fruits, by their fruits you shall know them.
Okay.
No X-ray shall show,
just this one question, Pastor Yamu. What would you say if you would rate states in Nigeria, irrespective of income, of resources, of capacity, and all of those things? In what category, what position would you place Edo State's capacity in when we number the number of states from top to 36? Where would you put Edo State? Why? And what needs to be done to get Edo State there?
In terms of potentials, in terms of human capacity, in terms of resources that we have not even tapped, Edo State should be among the first 3 states area. But the reality of today, Edo State is down at the bottom. Edo State is down in the bottom. If you are looking at employment indices, we are not doing well. If you are looking at industrial indices, we are not doing well. If you are looking at security, we are not doing well. And it's unfortunate for a state that is so well endowed. If you are talking about solid minerals, you are talking about oil, you are talking about human resources, we have them. But what we lack is leadership. We have had a governor that has been more of talk and no performance. We want somebody now who will not talk too much, who will perform. And we are confident that based on the track record, based on the antecedents of our candidates, we are confident that he will do well. I'm not interested in how well he speaks. What is important for us is that he means well. And by his fruits, we have seen that when he had the opportunity, even with his own funds, he demonstrated love and capacity. We want somebody that will replicate that.
All right. So we are Pastor, just before we go, I mean, what fruits are we talking about here? Because the same Mr. Mayaki said, Senator Pueblo is a novice in governance system, and so he cannot support it.
You see, how do you say he's a novice? For example, who is the people that is contesting with? They have never contested any election.
But they've been in and around. They have different positions in government.
No, what I'm saying, they have never even had any senior political office. But this man, our candidate, is an elected senator, the Federal Republic of Nigeria, representing the good people of Edo Central. Even in the Senate, as the first timer, is the chairman of public procurement. That's not something that you get just like that. That is a serious.
Pastor, I'm just a little curious. I mean, to think that he's a senator and, you know, I'm a journalist for how many years? I haven't quite heard any motion or that he's moved on the floor of the Senate.
I don't think we are following the proceedings in the Senate very carefully because I recall.
Can you tell us one bill that he's moved or a motion that he supported?
I recall that one of the first things he did, I think he even did it even in the first or second week, was to draw attention to the deplorable state of our roads. Roads that the state government said none of their business is federal road, even though those are major roads in our state. Roads that the former PDP senator could do nothing about, but it's on record that one of the first persons who raised a serious motion about the terrible state of roads in Edo and the need for the federal government to intervene is Senator Monday Okpebholo. And not only did he just say it, he went further. He went to see the president, he went to see the minister. And to the glory of God, today they have deployed people and machinery to go to that place to do it. So he walks his talk. He's just talking. He has also spoken on the floor of the house. He has followed this up with action. And we are full of praise. We are very impressed. That is the kind of thing that we want.
All right, Pastor Ezeyamo, former governorship candidate for Edo State. Thank you for your time, and all the best to you and the team.
Thank you very much. God bless you. Thank you.
All right, so that is the show today. We do thank you all for watching. We'll see you again tomorrow. In the meantime, enjoy your day, your holiday as much as you can. I'm Chamberlain Assault. Goodbye.
Indeed, Barakat Salah. Do make sure that you spread as much love and joy as you can despite the circumstances. Thank you for watching. I'm Mao Yusuf.
And take as much rest as you can. I'm Maya Makinde. To have a wonderful rest of your day.
The following is a paid presentation by ShopX TV.
Tired of pans that scratch and stick? Or cookware that takes up valuable space in your kitchen? Introducing ShopX Gotham Hammered Copper Collection, the perfect cookware to upgrade your cooking experience. The Gotham Hammered Copper Collection features a super durable ultra non-stick surface. Eggs stick to other pans, but with the Hammered Copper Collection, they slide right out. Incredible! It's oven safe, up to 500 degrees. Any recipe can be made in these pans, and then it wipes clean with ease. Make mouth-watering jollof rice or even fluffy pounder with ease, because nothing sticks.
I needed a cookware to keep up with me. The Gotham Hammered Collection has been a game changer. No more burnt meals or hours spent scrubbing pots.
You could be paying over $490,000 for a collection of pans that are not even non-stick. Call the number on your screen now and get it for just 364,950 Naira. If you order now, we will upgrade you to the Premier Kitchen Collection at no extra charge and also include all-in-one food processor that blends, grinds, chops, dices, pounds yam, and makes smoothies in seconds. Place your order now and we will deliver the entire collection for free. The following was a paid presentation from ShopX TV.